Hello, my name's Lisa Voisin, as mentioned, and I'm going to start off with a short reading today. I'm going to read two pieces. None of them are young adult fiction. This first piece is going to be nonfiction piece that's coming out in Chicken Soup for the Soul this month, and yeah, it's a nonfiction piece, and I'll start with that. It's quite short, and then I'm going to go into a science fantasy short fiction work as well. But I'll introduce that one as well. This one is called Last Embrace. Last Embrace. I felt the moment my mother died. I was at work on a beautiful sunny day in the middle of summer. The shop I worked at in Vancouver's Gastown district had floor-to-ceiling windows offering one of the city's best views of Burrard Inlet and the cedar-covered North Shore Mountains. My mother was living out her final days at the base of those mountains in the hospital's palliative care unit. Though she'd fought valiantly, extending her 6-month life expectancy to 3 years, her body had been ravaged by cancer, and there was nothing to do but wait. The last time I saw her was her 52nd birthday. She sat in her hospital bed with her face waxy and pale, her lipstick and mascara smudged. She'd still managed to style her hair in its usual bun, albeit a slightly messier version. For someone who never left the house without wearing lipstick or being impeccably dressed, this spoke volumes about her state. My aunts, Elaine and Maureen, sat on the chairs beside her hospital bed. The three of them were playing cards when I walked in. I sat at the foot of Mom's bed, careful not to move the mattress or it might jar her. At 21, I wasn't ready to lose my mother. Knowing that this birthday would be her last, I had no idea of what kind of present to get her. So I brought the most beautiful bouquet of flowers I could find. Mom didn't seem to notice me until Elaine announced my arrival. Though it didn't make sense at the time, in hindsight, I realized Mom had been so heavily medicated that the card game took all her focus. I greeted her with a kiss, told her I loved her, and wished her a happy birthday. When she thanked me and looked away, my throat tightened with unshed tears. I knew she loved me too. She was my mom. But were these going to be our last words? The next day, the doctors put Mom into a morphine-induced coma. My grandmother visited her daily, but advised me not to come, saying there was no point because she wasn't there anymore. At the time, we didn't know as much about comas. We believed Mom wouldn't know I was there. Every day, I went to work and came home to our empty house. Every day, I'd check in with grandmother and my aunts to see how Mom was doing. Every day, they told me it would be any time now. The magazine store was one of my first jobs. At the time, I knew nothing about bereavement leave or how compassionate care worked. Until Mom was hospitalized, working all day and looking after her at night exhausted me. As an only child of divorced parents, I needed help. So grandmother came often. It was a difficult time for all of us. Now that Mom was in a coma, there was nothing I could do. I didn't know how the news would hit me when it came. I didn't want to cause a scene or be forced to work the rest of my shift in tears until someone came to relieve me. So I asked my grandmother to not notify me of Mom's death in the middle of my workday, but to wait until the end of my shift instead. So that sunny day in early August, the lunch rush had just ended. Sunlight filtered through the large windows as I paced the empty store. Despite the air conditioning, a hot pressure came over me. The air shimmered with a sparkling golden hue. I felt a hand on my shoulder. I turned, but nobody was there. Then I felt like I was being squeezed, enveloped in a tight bear hug. With it came a feeling of love, combined with such grief. Tears filled my eyes. My heart pounded like a gong in my chest. Then the sensation lifted. I gulped in air as the feelings and the shimmery golden light subsided. Later that afternoon, at the end of my shift, my grandmother called right at 6 o'clock to let me know my mother had passed. I asked her what time it had happened. She told me it was just after 1 p.m. In hindsight, I realized what had happened. My mother had come to say goodbye, and this was her last embrace. All right, so that was my nonfiction piece. And now I'm going to go to a piece of short fiction I wrote. It was in a publication called Stellar Evolutions, which won an Aurora Award. It's a compilation of many short stories. And this is called Ninth Life. I don't know how long it's been since last I slept. Day and night flow together in striations of light and darkness that have no beginning, no end. An empty element on the kitchen stove glows an angry red like a coiled snake. I must have turned on the wrong burner. Doing so feels hauntingly familiar. Didn't I make the same mistake yesterday? Or was it the day before? I move the pot of water to cover the blazing element. On the street outside, a man screams. Someone hollers for him to shut up. Yesterday, someone killed a waitress at a local restaurant in a murder-suicide. Apparently, the killer believed certain people had to die for the sleeplessness to end, including himself. I switch on the TV. Most of the channels are rainbow emergency broadcast signals. Some are just static. A local station still plays news, but right now it's reruns of The Simpsons. The sleeplessness hit China first. It wiped out Europe and crossed North America within a week. That was 57 days ago. Still, we do not sleep. I'm settling down to eat when a tap on my door startles me. I jolt, spilling oatmeal on my shirt. What if it's the man who screamed in distress, or worse, insane? Not everyone gets their shots. The tap comes again, louder this time. Dr. Lewis. A woman's voice breaks with desperation. It's familiar. Please, I need your help. She knows me. I used to run a veterinary clinic in Vancouver specializing in cat care. The cats started sleeping more and more, as though hibernating, with no symptomology other than the fact they never woke up. We were overrun with frantic owners trying to rouse their pets. Now it doesn't matter. Nobody has time to care for animals, not when their own lives are falling apart. I scoop the oatmeal off my shirt, shove it in my mouth, and place the bowl on the coffee table on my way to the door. It's Eliza Beckworth, the owner of one of my patients. Her blonde hair is pulled back into a messy bun. Her eyeliner is jagged and blurry as though painted with shaky hands. Doctor, thank goodness. She holds up a cat carrier. Weariness and terror pinch her cheeks. It's Tintin. Can you see him? My years of training return and the sweet familiarity of my role washes over me. Tintin is a 6-year-old burly male, strong and hardy for a Siamese. Come in. Outside, the main streets are clogged with abandoned cars. Everyone's been ordered off the road to allow emergency vehicles the right of way. Did you walk? I ask. Eliza doesn't live in my neighborhood. The idea of her walking alone outside makes me uneasy. I rode my bike. There's an old trailer attached to the back. Good call, I say. I lead her through the living room, and I'm suddenly more aware of the signs of chaos in my own home. Old newspapers lie on the floor. Yesterday's dishes, all bowls of hard-crusted oatmeal, are piled on the end table. I move a stack of books off the kitchen table and wipe it down with a rag. Hardly sanitary medical conditions, but it's the best I can do. Tintin is normally the kind of cat that doesn't like coming to the vet and makes it known. 2 months ago, at his routine checkup, his health was excellent. Today, as we slide him out of his carrier, he doesn't stir or make a sound. His pulse beats slow and steady, just like the others. He's been sleeping more. Yesterday, he got up for less than 10 minutes. She sighs, tucking a stray lock of hair behind her ear. At first, I was jealous. She flashes me a guilty look. You know, that he could sleep. Does he eat? I could do a glucose test. The equipment's in the basement. Or did I leave it at the clinic? Eliza presses her lips together and shakes her head. Not for a few days. Cat food is something I do have. I brought the clinic supply home before the roads closed. People throughout the city are starving. If things don't improve, I may have to eat it myself. How long has he been like this? I say. 3 weeks. Tears fill Eliza's eyes. Can you help? At the clinic, those cats who slept that long were on their way out. I can stave off dehydration and hypoglycemia intravenously. It might help. I hold up a box of tissues. She takes one. I retrieve a bag of saline from the basement and attach an IV to Tintin, then check his vitals. Blood tests are only available in hospitals, but I know what's wrong with him. Eliza takes a seat in my living room. I sit on the leather chair across from her and wait. We do not speak. My living room wall undulates in time with the sound of her breathing. I press my fingers into my eyes. It's been 19 days since my bi-weekly antipsychotic shot. Clearly, I'm due. Once Tintin is hydrated, I ease him back into his carrier. He's asleep and purring. I help Eliza place the carrier onto the bike trailer and watch her ride off. She'll be back in a few days for another IV. There's no cure. We've only delayed the inevitable. My own cat, Bruiser, a 17-year-old Cornish Rex, is also sleeping more. He was a gift from my ex-husband when I opened my practice after graduation. Bruiser outlasted our entire relationship, not to mention my career. Has he woken up today? While our clinic was overrun, the news reported feral cat populations radically declining. Big cats were affected too. Lions in zoos all over the world fell asleep in their cages. North American cougars all died of natural causes, and South American jaguars have all but disappeared. What's left of India's Bengal tiger population can be counted on one hand. If I were religious, I'd say God was trying to smite these creatures. Maybe he's trying to smite us too. I sit beside Bruiser on the couch and stroke his rippled gray fur while he quakes and quivers through his dream state. I close my eyes, and a bloody, dark Hieronymus Bosch painting of a dream jolts me awake. I wipe the sweat from my skin. But as ugly and violent as the dream is, I ache with gratitude for it. At least I slept. Long after dark, my phone rings. Eliza's voice is so tight and breathy between sobs I barely recognize it. Her despair cloys at me like damp moss on a building. Tintin is dead. That despair is everywhere, along with the growing death toll. On TV, the local news covers a story about people hallucinating despite taking their antipsychotic shots. A 32-year-old woman with no history of mental illness reports a 3-hour conversation with a melting ghost. Similar conversations take place all over the city. A semi filled with fresh milk drove into the ditch. The driver was killed by a hungry mob for trying to protect his haul. According to a special interest story, we've never had so few cats. Local shelters report the last one being adopted a few months ago. My mind aches. Even a 4-year-old can see the correlation. There has to be a solution. Later that night, I have a micro dream. I am surrounded by cats of varying breeds and sizes, a large orange tabby with green eyes, a Siamese with a bent tail. They are dying, and with all my skills as a vet, there's nothing I can do about it. They call to me. At the front is Bruiser. I start writing my dreams down, not wanting to forget. I know it's a code of some kind. Or perhaps dreams are so rare, I simply want to hold on what it's like to have them. It must be morning because the sun rises behind a thick blanket of clouds. There's fur on the armrest beside me, not Bruiser's. It's orange, like the tabby from my dream. How is that possible? I splash my face with cold water at the kitchen sink and head out to my back garden. I planted potatoes a few weeks ago and already have tiny green buds. My neighbor, Mimi Patterson, sits on her back patio slurping peaches from a can, while Sabbath, her black cat, leaps onto the table beside her. I blink. The sight of a healthy feline is jarring. Mimi's fleshy form is draped in a loose-fitting eyesore of purple and gold, something you'd see on a carnival fortune teller. Her graying brown hair, a mass of uncontrollable curls, falls over one eye. Hello, Mimi. I nod towards Sabbath, who struts around her. His tail is a high question mark. He looks well. She smiles and strokes his chin, cooing. He thinks something in this can is for him. Does he have enough food? He's been mousing. She drinks the last of the peach juice from its can and shrugs. But we could always use more. Be right back. I head into the basement and retrieve a flat of canned food and a 10-pound bag of dry. Have I fed my own cat? I consult the chart on the kitchen fridge I made after I last forgot to feed him. The checkbox beside morning is empty. I call Bruiser, but he doesn't rouse from his spot on the couch. His feet twitch in deep slumber. I leave a can of food on the counter as a reminder to feed him once he wakes. When I step outside, the clouds have broken. After being in the dark house, sunlight hurts my eyes. Squinting, I carry the food through Mimi's gate. She's left it unlocked. Not far away, a man sobs, a high keening noise that makes me nervous to leave my door unlocked. Mimi guides me through the glass doors into her kitchen, and I leave the food on a chair. Sabbath leaps onto the counter. She scolds him gently, scratching behind his ears. Mixed signals. He is undoubtedly the healthiest cat I've seen in months. Sabbath's eyes are clear and lucid. His lush, thick fur ripples in the filtered light. Even Bruiser's been slacking off on his grooming lately, like his owner. How's he sleeping? Excellent. He sleeps a good 13 to 15 hours a day. A bit more than me. A bit more than her? You're sleeping? I blink at her in disbelief. How is that possible? I sleep a good 8 to 10 hours every night. Her bright green eyes have no dark circles around them. Like her cat, Mimi is healthy and alert. A wave of jealousy burns in my chest. I push it down. What are you doing? Nothing, Jill. She smiles down at her purring cat. It's Sabbath who makes sure I get into the dream time. Dreaming, you mean? No, the dream time. Her laughter is light and airy. Where do you think people go when they dream? She has to be pulling my leg. Into REM sleep? Jill, the sooner you realize that science doesn't have all the answers, the sooner I can help you. I want to shrug off her condescending tone, but a chill drips down my back like melted ice. What do you mean? She procures a small paper bag from the cupboard and hands it to me. Take this. You need to follow my directions exactly. They need your help. They? I lick my dry lips and press them together. Maybe I've cracked and started to hallucinate. How long have I known Mimi? We've spoken before, haven't we? Last week. I think she's lived next door for years, but I can't remember. The The directions need my help? No, Jill, the cats do. The ritual Mimi gives me is absurd. Surround my bed in a circle of salt, prepare the contents of the paper bag into a tea, then sit on the bed with Bruiser and drink it. The tea looks and smells like something scraped out of a stable with a hint of lime. I pour the boiling water into my cup and let it steep, cursing the desperation that makes me willing to try this. I take a hot shower, change into my pajamas, and let the concoction cool. Bruiser hasn't moved from the foot of my bed, as though he's expecting me. I sit on the mattress, plug my nose, and guzzle the foul-tasting liquid. My stomach writhes and jumps like I've swallowed a live ferret. I lie down, gasping. Bruiser leaps on my chest. I am so weak, he feels like a bear. He presses his wet nose into mine and huffs fishy-smelling breath. My eyes flutter shut and I see him. He is huge and sinewy, more panther than house pet. And his purr rumbles through my chest like a growl. His amber gold eyes pierce me, and the world around us dances with filaments of light. Every color swirls, forming shapes, becoming anything I focus on: a chair, a tree, a sunny afternoon. This is the dream time, Bruiser says. I've held it open for you as long as I can. Held what? I don't even question the fact my cat is talking to me. His mouth doesn't move, but his words echo through my head, reverberating through my consciousness. Am I hallucinating? We don't have much time. Bruiser turns toward a rounded hole, shredded and gray around the edges like frayed cloth. That's the doorway. My species holds it open for yours, but our time is done. We're crossing over. Now it's your turn. My turn? I'd give my head a shake, but my body is made of cement. Stay awake in the dream time, Bruiser says, and keep the door open. Keep it open how? He presses a paw into my chest, extends his claws. You must not look away. You must not awaken. For how long? Time. It's not the same here. That doesn't answer anything. You were good to me. He bumps his nose against mine. This is all I can do. He leaps off my chest and his image fades, leaving me alone. I don't know how long it's been since last I slept. Day and night flow together in striations of light and darkness that have no beginning, no end. I am awake in the dream time, standing at a tattered window between our worlds. The other side erupts in vivid color. On my side is only darkness and death. I must not cross, must not look away. I wait for someone, anyone to join me, but no one comes. All the cats are gone. And thank you. That's it. The end.